Hello and welcome back to Wreaking More Joy. I'm Janet Dalgleish, and in this season of Reclaim, we're digging into the nuts and bolts, some practical solutions as we continue exploring how women can disrupt the old, outdated crap in our heads and rekindle the romance with our purpose, especially in the context of our working lives. So last episode, we talked about the concept of cui bono, the question of who benefits from any given rule that's rattling around inside our heads. And today, I want to zoom in on one specific word that the brain weasels absolutely love to use when seeking to impose an old rule because it's one of their most effective tools. And then I'm going to give you my favorite fun, simple antidote. And it's so we're talking about the word should. I'll use my own example here because it's one I find a bit embarrassing, which is usually a sign it's worth sharing. So I love the people on my email list. I genuinely do. They are curious, thoughtful, purpose-driven women who've chosen to invite me into their inbox, and that is not something I take lightly. And staying connected with them really matters to me. It's something I actively want to do. So you would think that writing to an email to my list would be enjoyable, like natural, easy, letter to a friend kind of easy. But because my email list is part of my working life, the brain weasels can regularly show up with, Janet, you should write an email to your list. And as soon as that happens, something flips in my head, and the whole thing immediately takes on this energy of duty and obligation. Letter to a friend becomes homework. It becomes imbued with a particular kind of flatness and there's some mild resistance, that sense of, "Oh, I'll get to it," which I really don't like. It's like it brings out the sulky teenager in me, and nobody wants that. And it makes no sense given how much I genuinely want to do it. And that's part of the tell. When should shows up, it doesn't really matter how much you actually want the thing. It flattens everything. It turns desire into obligation and duty. It takes something alive that we might otherwise be enthusiastic about and makes it feel like a chore as dull as tax preparation. And for all the accountants who love tax preparation time, I apologize. I don't mean to generalize and imply that somehow it is universally a chore. But here's what should does inside your brain. It creates a kind of internal boss, not a kind one, not a fair one, but the mean kind of boss that we talked about in an earlier episode, in I think episode 1 of this season. It's a curt, dictatorial kind of presence that has decided in advance what the appropriate standard is, and usually its voice is rich with a snarky implied sense of you're not going to manage it. You're not good enough for it yet. You haven't quite met the standard. It doesn't ask what you want. It doesn't ask what's realistic, what you have the energy for. It doesn't ask what you need in order to do the thing well. Maybe you need a nap first. It just issues the directive and stands there, arms folded, judging. It's not fun. And should shows up in every area of life, of course, but it has a particularly strident presence in our relationship with our work. I should get that email out. I should call that client. Never mind the fact that I love my clients. Like, I love and adore my clients. Why would I not want to respond to them or email them or call them or whatever it is that my brain weasels are going, you should do that. I should be further along by now. That's a regular one. I should have set up that pension fund. Sometimes they operate in the past tense, which makes you feel even worse because that's in the past. You can't do anything about it now. I should be doing more marketing. Regardless of whether actually what you're doing is working, I should have this figured out by now. It's these generic, broad, I should blah, blah, blah that say you are overall failing as a human. They are my least favorite. And you can feel the energy of that list. You can feel how it lands in your body. I'm laughing about it, but that's partly to kind of push away the pain of it because there's a heaviness there. There's a sense of being a little or a lot behind, of failing a standard, of not quite measuring up or potentially not measuring up. It's not inspiring and it's not helpful self-reflection. Should is a brain weasel running a really effective program of control, and you deserve better than that. So You might be tempted at this point to go looking for the deeper cause, to ask, why do I resist this thing? What unresolved issue is at play here? Is there some healing I need to do? Is there some old pattern I need to excavate and examine? Those things might be true. Last episode, we talked about an efficient shortcut that when we notice some rule in our head and should absolutely fits here, we can ask cui bono, who benefits from this being in my head? And if it's not you, if it's the system that says you're supposed to do it a certain way in order to comply and to belong, then you get to disrupt the rule. This week, I want to talk about a potentially even more efficient shortcut that can unlock should around any topic at all. It's simply saying the phrase out loud and then replacing the word should with the word could. One word, a single swap. And the same, by the way, goes for I ought to and I need to and all of those other things, because it's the same stuff in different shoes. So you can swap those as well. So, for example, I should write an email to my list becomes I could write an email to my list. And that opens up a whole new set of possibilities. I could write it today at the coffee shop where I know I do my best thinking. I could dictate a rough draft into my phone on a walk and clean it up later. I could record something to my phone and send it to them as a voice memo. I could write a shorter one than usual because my 80% is more than good enough. I could decide that this week it's not a priority and come back to it next week without self-punishment. I could do it because I genuinely want to stay connected to the people I love. And this means I get to do it. Not I should do it, but I get to do it. That's a very different energy. I could write a letter to my friends. Feel the difference? The energy lifts, different options begin to appear. It's like the internal boss uncrosses her arms and opens her hands. Should is a closed door. It tells you that you are failing or about to fail some weird pre-existing standard that you didn't set and you weren't consulted on. Whereas could is an open door. It tells you that you have actual choices. Could means you could do it the easy way, the imperfect way, the way that actually suits how you work. Could means you could delegate it. You could barter it for something that you already do. You could ask someone a favor. You could outsource it and pay someone to do it. Could means you could genuinely decide it isn't a priority now and put it down without guilt, or even delete it from your list altogether. Could also means you could choose to reframe this thing, this thing that you should do or be. You could reframe it and genuinely change how you feel about it. So the drudgery ceases to exist and the thing itself becomes fun. I used to do this with tax preparation, where I would have to drag myself kicking and screaming to the spreadsheets to do it at the end of the financial year. And then I started putting on a movies that I loved, that I know really well. I would line them up and then I would brew a huge pot of coffee and I would have snacks. So I changed my relationship with it so that actually it is now something that I look forward to, because I don't do that with any of my other working activities, and then none of my other tasks get that treatment. So it's kind of like, ooh, end of June is coming up soonish. I get to go for 2 days, 2 full days, where I just sit on with my laptop in my recliner watching movies and moving numbers around. It's so fun. It doesn't take me 2 days any longer either. So this is a scenario where when you use could, obligation goes out the door and pressure leaves the building, and it's your sovereignty back where it belongs, in the driver's seat. And now I said this was simple, and it is. That is not the same as easy. Our brains are absolutely marinated in should. It is everywhere. It's in advertising, in the news, in social media, in the voices of people who love us and are just passing on what was passed to them. So this rewiring takes practice, patience, and a great deal of self-compassion. So here's how you start. Start noticing the shoulds in your head. You don't have to change or fix anything immediately. The act of noticing alone starts to create a tiny gap between you and the word. And that gap that's where your power lies. So play with the swap. Idly speculate on what it would feel like with this particular should to swap it with a could. sit with the could version and see how it feels. Is it exciting? Is it weird? Is it confusing because you don't actually know what comes next because you're so used to thinking I should that I could feels really strange and uneasy? Is it scary because it's new? There's no right or wrong response here. And you do get to keep the should if you choose to or if you need to. You're playing and stretching a little. I used to have to keep the should a little bit with my tax prep because motivating myself to actually get it done, I had to build in a little bit of I should do this or I'll get punished. I'll get into trouble with the tax office. We have some pretty lenient tax situation here, so it's very unlikely I would have ever got punished. But it was still a fairly useful thing to actually get me to not so much force me to sit there and be in misery while I did it, but force me to find a way to reframe it. So the should helped me to find that last could, the could where I got to dance with it. And the thing is, when you play with this, some shoulds will cave in almost immediately, creating this really instant feeling of liberation. The minute you go, I could do that, you can feel the, oh, that feels so much better. It's so much nicer. Some other shoulds have been there a long time and will take more patience. Be gentle with yourself either way. And the speed with which a should disappears isn't necessarily related to how big the thing is itself. So you can find some unexpected things happening with this. And if at any time the brain weasels pipe up and tell you that you're just making excuses, that the standard exists for a reason, that this is self-indulgent, making it a could instead of a should is self-indulgent. Remember last week we talked about cui bono. Run the question again. Who benefits from you staying devoted to this particular should? Is it you? Probably not. Is it the community at large? Is it the system? Not all shoulds are the enemy. So I should pay my tax on time is actually quite a good friend, even when it seems annoying. So is I should stop at this red light. So the shoulds that are worth examining are the ones that leave you feeling smaller, behind, not quite enough, and out of options. And if you'd like a journal prompt alongside this, write down three shoulds that are currently living in your head about your work, whatever they might be. I should design a program to run in July this year. I should post that thing on LinkedIn that I keep forgetting to do. I should get the preparation done for the client that I'm seeing tomorrow. When I turn all of those into a could, then they become different. I could design a program to run in July. You know what? I totally could. And I think I have some fantastic ideas. And I've got some travel time coming up where I'm going to be in an enforced state of sitting quietly, not doing anything, which is perfect time for me to brainstorm. I could do the prep for my client. And actually, I'm really looking forward to it because I love doing that kind of stuff, looking at someone's chart and figuring out what's happening for them in their personal year coming up. So any should, we can take it and we can convert it into a could. Any should can be converted into a could. And so you take your shoulds and swap each one to could, and then write down what becomes possible when you use the could version. So I could do the preparation for my client. I totally could. And not only that, because I can do it on my dining room table, I don't have to sit anywhere in particular and do it because I need pen and paper, but I don't need to be at my desk. I can do it anywhere. So that means I could do it while I drink coffee. I could do it while I get myself a sandwich. I've got my eye on some leftover chicken in the fridge. I could do it in a way that I know is going to lead to the most delightful conversation with my client tomorrow. There are so many different juicy things that come out when I think about could rather than thinking of the duty and the obligation. And if you find that a should is very loud and very resistant to change, and the swap isn't working on its own or it's not enough, that is not a sign that you're broken. It might be a sign that there is something more specific underneath that is worth looking at and some tangles of should that need to be unraveled. That is exactly the kind of thing I love to explore together in the safe space of a coaching container. So you can find out more about that. I'll put a link in the show notes. Next week, we are talking about something. I'm going to tell you a story about something I saw from my local Business Women's Chamber of Commerce group that really drove me wild about a year ago. I'm going to share that with you. We'll talk about invisible work and we'll talk specifically about why praising women for doing things quietly and without asking for credit is not actually a compliment. And it is time we talked about this. So until then, take care of yourself, shiny one, and go wreak some joy.